Hello, welcome to another edition of Prove All Things. Want to thank everybody who's joining us today, whether you're watching on Facebook, YouTube, X, or watching on the CGI Digital Network app, whether that's on your phone, tablet, television, or any other way you can watch. We thank you for joining us. I am joined with co-host Mike James. How you doing,
Hey,
Mike?
Jeff, how you doing? Good morning. Well, it's morning here, but I think good afternoon to you. So
Yeah. Good afternoon. I am. They've changed the program we use to broadcast this service, so I think I got it figured out. But if something weird happens, I'm gonna blame the program. But
okay, yeah, good to
so
let
far,
let
so
let
far
the
so good.
audience know.
Yeah, because I gotta find the audience too here. All right, there they are. All right. So again, good to see everybody. Have everybody joining us today. How's your week been?
Pretty good. I'm heading out to Lompoc, California, right after this program. I've got to baptize somebody later today, and then I'll be driving back early tomorrow. So, little excitement midweek here with the baptism, and I'm looking forward to that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good to hear that. And we are coming back after the election happened last week. So we have a new president elect who's the old president, but new president elect. And I guess as Christians, we should always remember no matter who they are, we are to pray for our leaders and be good citizens.
Definitely.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to go ahead and bring in our guest. If I can get to our next screen. There we are. And find them over here. Our guest today is your brother George. Hey, George.
Hey, gentlemen,
George.
how are you? Jeff and Mike, good to see you guys again.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you. How you been doing since last time we had you on the program?
I have gone through a lot.
Yeah.
But I am doing well. I'm doing better. We've gone through a couple funerals, and I was in an accident, which I have recovered pretty well from, and still in a recovery process. So thank God for that.
Yeah, what did you do, George? You blew out both knees.
I had a quadriceps tendons bilateral rupture, so they had to be reattached, and a lot of PT. I couldn't walk for about 2.5 months, and gradually strength has come back, and I'm lacking a little bit of mobility, a little bit of power in the legs, but I have gotten stronger and hope to continue progressing in a positive way.
Good. Maybe you can tell us about that in the future on a program of how to recover and come back when things aren't going good. Yeah,
absolutely. I went through some depression for sure. So,
yeah.
Well, it's good to see you're doing well and you're happy and things are doing good for you. So glad to have you back with us. So I guess you have a lot of the topics we have when you're on, or I guess they're basically fitness or health related topics. Why is that? What is your background again for everybody so they can understand why you this is your emphasis?
My background is in exercise physiology, exercise science, also nutrition too through the International Sports Sciences Association. I have also completed various certifications in therapy, coaching, also exercise related as well, and nutrition related too. So I have done, for the last 20 plus years actually at this point, I have done some one-on-one training in home at various gyms, some presentations, some work with seniors as well as young athletes and all folks in between as well. A few speaking engagements in there as well, and a couple books too. couple books. One, Fitness Through the Eyes of the Heart. The other one, Abdominal Training Inside and Out. So and I like to relate it through. I like to relate it to the scriptures, the Holy Bible as well. I see a correlation there too. I like to see that connection.
Yeah, because we are a Bible-based show. So the day's topic. How does the day's topic relate to the Bible?
There's two verses, Jeff, I'd like to start with.
Okay.
And one of them is Daniel 12, verse 4. The last portion of that verse mentions knowledge shall be increased. That's Daniel 12, verse 4.
Mm-hmm.
So in every facet of this world, education, science and technology, medicine, health and wellness, we see an enhancement of knowledge being increased, usually for the betterment of society, but sometimes it may not always be for the betterment of society too, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But knowledge certainly has increased. It has increased in every facet. So Daniel is right. Knowledge has been increased in ways. Additionally, Psalm 139, verses 13 and 14, I think more so verse 14, we read there, as King David wrote, we are fearfully and wonderfully made.
Mm-hmm.
He was able to see the intricacy of God's creation. He was able to look at this human organism and say, wow, this is extraordinary. This is breathtaking.
Mm-hmm.
How did he do this? Why, how do we come to be? How was he able to do all that he's done with with this human form, but also the environment and the creation around him as well? So yes, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And I think the topic today definitely demonstrates that in a certain way.
Yeah, I think when we mentioned the human body, fearfully, wonderfully made, that anytime we would discuss these things, and I guess we're going to look at probably some stuff I've never really looked at before that you have. So I saw your slides that we have prepared. Like, I've never heard of this stuff before, so it's going to be interesting. That it just kind of shows how much we are created. That just there can't be an evolution. There can't be this happenstance. This doesn't happen by chance. This is a well-planned, well-designed body that we live in.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's a holistic health practitioner, and he's actually close to where Mike lives, so somewhat close. He's in the southern part of California. He did some work in Arizona for a while, but most of his time now is in California. For the last 2 decades at least, he's been out in California. He has an institute out there, southern part of the state. His name's Paul Chek. And I wouldn't say that Paul Chek is a Christian the way that, the way you and I think of the Church of God and so forth, but he is someone who taps into the spiritual component of the human being, or tries to at least. He had this comment, this quote, I don't have it exactly, but I'll try to paraphrase that for us here in a moment, but he had this quote from a seminar back in the early 2000s, and it goes like this. He mentioned, this human organism makes a rocket ship or a space shuttle look like a pile of junk. and he's right.
Yeah.
He's right. The intricacy is fascinating, and that's what we're going to delve into today. Just one little area of it. Mm-hmm. I want to do a little show and tell here in a moment too, but this brings us into our title. The title is The Splendor of the Myokines. Myo, M-Y-O, means muscle. So the splendor of the myokines is our title. So what is this?
M-Y-O, what's the last part? Is it K-I-N-E-S? Or?
K-I-N-E-S, yes.
Okay.
M-Y-O, meaning muscle. So myokines, the splendor of the myokines. So, what is this exactly? What are we talking about here? So myokines, we can describe them as a molecule. This is something minuscule, something microscopic. Mm-hmm. It can be described as a peptide or a protein peptide, or a branch or a strand of perhaps amino acids So all of those things, myokines, have been described in that way. They come from skeletal muscle tissue,
Okay.
superficial skeletal muscle tissue. So our biceps and triceps, so our muscles of the arms, the forearm, the quadriceps group, the hamstring group of the thigh, the gastroc and soleus of the calf, the lower leg, the gluteus maximus, minimus, and medius of the hip region, the back musculature, latissimus dorsi. These secrete myokines. Now the myokines, we think, and I say we think,
Okay.
because we're still learning, and we think there's about 600 of them now, but they're secreted by the muscle.
When you say 600, like 600 different kinds?
600 different ones. Yes, Jeff.
Okay. Okay.
600. I'm going to try to talk about maybe 4 of them today.
Okay.
So we'll touch base with 4 of those today. So additionally, so they're secreted by skeletal muscle tissue, and they leave the muscle area. Now they could stay in the muscle area and have a positive effect there too. But generally speaking, they're secreted by the muscle, and they may be used by the muscle itself, but in many examples, they're leaving the area and they're going out and they're finding cells, different parts of the body, and the cells have these receptors on them, and they know where to go for the right receptor, and they perform, generally speaking, for the most part, a beneficial attribute or characteristic for the body.
Okay.
So they're helping the body do something positive. For example, and the slide, we're going to go to a slide a little bit later in this presentation, but they could help our bodies distribute fat differently or break it down. And fat that accumulates can be hazardous to our health.
So George, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
So if they're secreted through these large muscle groups, these muscle areas in the body, can you enhance their capability through exercise? Like, what if you don't do any exercise versus doing exercise? Can you secrete more of these to enhance what they do in the body?
Yes, you can. Here's what we know right now, Mike. We can, if we exercise. For example, it seems like resistance training, some kind of resistance, produces more myokines. Also, bigger muscles of the body, more muscles working as a team, produces more myokines.
Okay.
So to answer your question is yes. However, all movement is good. If I'm gardening, if I'm taking a walk with my dog or my family, this is also a good thing. This too will produce myokines. If I'm a laborer of some kind, this can produce myokines. All movement is good. But yes, Mike, we can produce more. And there was a study, interestingly, in Copenhagen. And it showed that if we take, basically the gist of it was this. Let's say we walk for 30 minutes with our dog or something, and it's a nice leisurely walk. That's a good thing. But if we go for a 5K run, a little run over a little 3 miles at a pretty hard pace or a reasonably tough pace, more myokines are produced. More myokines are secreted. So yes, that's what we've learned recently. Now, I should mention this.
Okay, a question I have. Okay, so so more of these myokines are produced through like more exercise and stuff.
Yes.
So is there an ideal like amount of exercise to optimize myokines?
Good question. The more, Jeff, seems to be better, but your question is very interesting because I was just reading a study, and here's what it said. It was talking about what if we do more exercise and we just pour on the exercise. Guess what? It wasn't always beneficial. I don't have the data in front of me, but I remember it pretty well. So let me try to give you an overview of this for your question, and I'll give you a little more of a thorough answer. So there were 3 groups. The one group did a lot of exercise, maybe 6 or 7 days a week. It was found that their susceptibility to a virus or a cold was about 64%. So it didn't produce better immune system results for them.
Mm-hmm.
Then there was another group that worked out but had more days of rest. It might have been intense training, but they were like, "Oh, I'll take this day off and that day off. I'll work pretty hard here based on my schedule, what I'm doing with my life." Their susceptibility for colds or viruses was about 22%, so much lower.
Right.
Then we had a third group, which was sedentary. They did nothing, and their susceptibility was about 44% to colds and viruses. So what we found was just pouring on exercise wasn't always the right approach,
Well,
but
that
rather having some
that,
balance.
that makes me think about, since we're all Sabbath keepers, that God maybe has a reason
Yeah,
for rest in
sure,
our lives as well, because we
definitely,
definitely
definitely.
says
So,
rest is important.
but great questions, guys, for sure.
Yeah.
I want to add that this science we're looking at, it's in exercise science, exercise physiology. There are nutritional scientists that are tapping into this as well. But this is about late 1990s, or it becomes more prevalent, more prominent probably in the early 2000s. The name myokine was coined by a Swedish scientist. His name is Bengt, Bengt, I think that's how you say it, Bengt, Bengt Salton. So he coined the term the myokine, but the science goes a little bit before him. But realize what is this? It's 2024. So we're looking at 21 years, 24 years, maybe a little bit later than that, late 90s, 25, 26 years. So this is something that's recent. This is something that many people are just discovering now. It's been discovered maybe 2 decades ago, plus a few years, but it's something that we're still learning about. Something else I want to share too, and I want to do a little show and tell here in a moment, is that the muscles, and you kind of alluded to this already, Jeff, the muscles are, these myokines are messengers.
Okay.
They're messengers. They communicate with organs of the body. They communicate with fat cells. They communicate with the brain. They're communicating with other parts of the body. This is not new just to this area. Let me give you a couple examples.
Well, I have to just clarify again. Maybe you know this or don't know this. How do they communicate?
That is an awesome question. Primarily, they're communicating by connecting to the receptor site of other cells.
Okay.
So that's how we would say they communicate. Now, how do we find them? This might go a little further to another question, or a question that you have. They were first located through blood panels. What does that mean? That's a fancy way of saying complete blood count. When we look at our blood, we look at the human blood, we get blood samples, and we analyze the blood very closely. The blood can show us that we are deteriorating. The blood also reveals if we're thriving with optimal health. So the blood reveals so much. And realize, again, this is 24, 25 years old. So we can look at our blood. We can also do muscle biopsies. I don't recommend that for humans, but there's an extraction of actual muscle tissue. So we're able to see it through some biopsies, but also through the blood itself. But it's a complete blood count. So it's a thorough blood examination. A blood panel or a thorough blood examination is how we can identify them. But again, going back to your question, Jeff, just to reiterate that point, communication happens by the receptor sites of various cells throughout the body. And the myokines, they don't fit into every cell. Some cells will say, hey, myokine, this is not where you belong. The myokine knows where to go. And it goes to that right receptor site, and it gives a message to our metabolism. For example, maybe the liver needs to recruit more glucose for us because we're depleted of energy. So it'll cause the liver to promote or secrete glucose or glycogen stores on our muscle fibers because we're lacking, or we're diminished of that because we're like fatigued or something. We've already expended so much energy. So that's one of the things that it does, which is extraordinary. So that communication is the receptor sites of cells. Is how the communication takes place. But great question, key question right there for this study. Let me go a little further with this. So the myokines are messengers. I want to do a little show and tell very briefly. It's the idea of the body, the inner workings communicating is not new. There are other facets of scientific areas or we have discovered this. I'm not going to go into great detail here because it's going to take us in a tangent, but I do want to bring up that as you guys both know and pointed out, this inner working, what's happening inside of us is intelligent. It's brilliant. The Myokines are smart. They know what they're doing. They know where to go. They have a purpose, and they know what to do. It's like wow, fearfully and wonderfully made, as King David.
You're getting me to think about the scripture that talks about the body and the different parts of the body, you know, speaking about the church in a sense. But I think that the analogy is now that we have this new knowledge, the body itself does this too.
Yes, Mike, you're exactly right. This book here is called Deadly Emotions. It's by a man with a Christian perspective named Dr. Don Colbert. He's down in Florida. He wrote something here in this book, Deadly Emotions. It's more of a psychology book, but he writes about the correlation with the human mind and health and wellness, the human body diminishing or being vital and healthy, depending on the perspective that goes on in here. Additionally, this one here gets into neuroscience. Dr. Candace Pert, I believe she's retired now, but she worked out of NIH for many years. And she wrote this book, Molecules of Emotion. This came out in the late 90s. I'm just going to read you just a couple sentences here from Dr. Pert. This is Molecules of Emotion, page 184. And she writes here, the three classically separated areas of neuroscience, she was what you call a neuroscientist, nervous system science. So separated areas of neuroscience, endocrinology, and immunology, immune system, and their various organs associated. She goes on, the brain, the glands, and the spleen, bone marrow, and lymph nodes are actually joined to each other in a multi-directional network of communication linked by information carriers known as neuropeptides. She gets into the communication messenger of neuropeptide. The science we're going over right now is the messenger of the myokine. But the idea of the body communicating, that idea is not new. That goes back before the myokines. But the inner workings here are intelligent. There's communication happening, and it is an awesome thing to really behold and be like, wow. You know, Mike pointed something out there with the church, the different parts. King David mentioned 3,000 years ago, roughly, fearfully and wonderfully made. And we're learning, wow, these Bible verses really are being enhanced by what we're discovering. That's an incredible, awesome thing. So
let me ask you real quick, because you mentioned about myokines and like your glucose level, so they can they can based on that can control glucose level. And I know it's a probably really predominant in the United States. As a lot of Americans get older, they become more susceptible to type 2 diabetes, where their sugar is out of control. So is there maybe a way to reverse that through exercise?
There is, Jeff. And there have been people that have reversed type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is not a death sentence. Yes, to answer your question, yes, absolutely. It does take effort. It does take a reevaluation of diet and exercise, of what you're doing in your lifestyle. The answer is yes, absolutely.
Okay.
So let me do this. Let me go through. I'm going to highlight a few benefits, and then we'll move on from there. But let me touch base on some benefits, and we'll try to tap into these a little more closely.
One quick question
coming. Sure, Mike.
Before you do that, we got a Life Lessons is asking about an analogy I think they're making between the Holy Spirit and take a look at that question, George.
Could you liken myokines to the Holy Spirit at a spiritual level? It makes me think of John 14:26, shall teach you all things and bring all things to remembrance. What's interesting about that question or point, I was thinking of the Holy Spirit as I was reading about this and tapping into this. So yes, there's almost a spiritual side to this, a deeper side of this for the human organism. In fact, this author here, Candace Pert, later in her career, I don't know what her religious beliefs are, but she started to look at and realize that this human organism is not just physical. there has to be a spiritual component to it as well. And she started to be shunned by some of her colleagues and contemporaries because she was tapping into an area where they were shunning from. They would shun because they were like, no, this is talking about as if there's something greater than us and something up there, out there somewhere. And she was like, no, we gotta look, if we're gonna be true scientists, we gotta put all the cards on the table because that's where this is pointing to. So I like that comment there. So yes, I think that can be a very good analogy, a very cogent analogy for this subject. So I'll list a few benefits here with the myokines. What are they doing? What's happening here? Here's just some highlights. There's regulation of metabolism in all body tissues. Metabolism is the ability to produce energy. It's change and chemical reactions in the body, all over the body, all types of things. So, for example, it can help us utilize nutrients better. It can help us eliminate better. So we get rid of toxins out of our body. So these are part of the metabolic pathways. So regulation of the metabolism of the entire organism is a key for the myokines. Additionally, anti-inflammatory effects, blood flow, circulation. The blood carries with it oxygen, other nutrients that help enhance vitality and the well-being of the organism. Improve immune function as well. Jeff, I'm getting a little more specific here. Metabolizing glucose from your bloodstream. So being able to, if we have too much sugar in the blood, glucose, other name for sugar, glucose is the name for sugar in the bloodstream now. So too much sugar in there becomes a toxin in our body. The myokines help push that through and get that to working muscles so it's used for energy as it should be. It doesn't just sit in our bloodstream and cause type 2 diabetes. Additionally, improve body composition. We might get into that a little more closely here in a moment. Enhance brain health. I'd like to share a little bit more on that. And then also, here's something too. This wasn't really thought of before. Maybe 50 years ago, this wasn't the thinking. But today, people are now thinking, in fact, there's a doctor, Dr. Gabrielle Lyons. She wrote a book maybe 2 years ago. It came out maybe 2022, 2023, Forever Strong. She writes in there that she now considers skeletal muscle tissue to be the largest organ of the body. It was never thought that way before. But she's thinking this is the largest organ of the body, and she considers it now a part of the endocrine system, which is our master message system of the body. There's like 12 systems of the body, 11 or 12, depending on the source we're looking at. But the hypothalamus, for example, part of the brain, that's considered like the master of the endocrine system. But she's saying, hey, this can be part of the endocrine system too, because there's messages. The myokines too are messengers as well, and some of them go to the brain too. So I mentioned, feel free to chime in. I mentioned, so time, we're looking very good there on time. That's a little bit about myokines, where they came from. So I'm going to bypass that a little bit. I want to go to this section next. I want to talk a little bit about the brain health. So there are myokines. Not all of the myokines can do this, but there are two of them. I'm going to mention two of them here. One is called cathepsin B, CATHEPSIN, big capital B, and irisin, IRISIN. These two myokines are able to go through the blood-brain barrier. The blood-brain barrier is a membrane between the bloodstream and the brain itself. And that's good that it's there because it can prevent the brain from getting infiltrated with toxins or bacteria. So it protects the brain in essence. But these two myokines are able to get through that blood-brain barrier. And what do they do in the brain? What happens there? They promote, they attach to cells, and they are able to produce new neurons in the brain. So the brain is becoming refreshed and revitalized. And I'm not saying it's going to be like a 5-year-old or like a teenager brain, but it's almost like it's becoming like young, maybe not young, but younger, or maybe young in a sense. So that's what's happening. Additionally, it's enhancing learning and memory and spatial awareness. Now, we associate spatial awareness more when we're younger because let's say we're playing baseball and we're running for a fly ball and we gear our speed just right to catch that fly ball. That's called spatial awareness, or an example of spatial awareness, which is an awesome thing for the body to know where it is in space, be able to move and just adjust accordingly as it needs to for protection as well, to play sports, but also just for protection if you need to. If you need to, you're falling down a staircase, how can you grab or adjust to prevent the fall to be worse than what it might be? So spatial awareness is very key for anyone. So there is this formation of new neurons and there's this enhancement of learning. And these myokines cause that. The two I mentioned there, the cathepsin B and the irisin. So they cause a healthier brain. Now, I'm not saying we're going to live forever, of course. I'm not saying that. I think we all understand that. But you know what, though? As long as we're here, why don't we be the best of ourselves? Enhance this organism God gave us. Because if we're still here, if we're still alive, if we're still living, we're still doing something, why not glorify God as best we can with the knowledge that he has given us? And if he allows us to increase our knowledge to know more, let's tap into that a little bit and see what we can do with that, perhaps. So that's interesting, gentlemen, because so not all the myokines can do that, but those two do it. And again, it's that receptor site in the cell. They can get through the blood-brain barrier, but not all myokines can. Those two can. Probably some others are able to do it, but those two specifically are two that come up that are able to get through that blood-brain barrier.
Okay,
for something positive. Yes.
So you mentioned the positive effects and things that happen. So how do we get this into our life? What needs to be done to get these benefits that you're speaking of?
Okay, so
what studies are there about it?
Okay, there's one study, Jeff, that I can point. I don't have it in front of me.
Yeah.
But one study was called the Drew study. And the Drew study looked at the effects specifically at aerobic endurance or aerobic training of some kind. And that could be running, that could be on a bike, that could be swimming.
Right.
And they found, Jeff, that now I'm going to talk about this leads me to another one of our myokines. I wanted to mention at least 4. I mentioned 2 so far. So they found that interleukin 6 is another myokine. They found that aerobic endurance type activities promoted or produced in the muscles that were worked the secretion of interleukin 6 myokine. So that is a way to enhance that myokine, which can help metabolism and eliminate body fat. Excuse me. So that's one item there. So additionally, something else that has come up is, I may have mentioned this earlier, but it bears repeating. Some research has said that the greater production of myokines will come through strength training or resistance training. And I believe that's true because the greater muscular contraction when we're lifting something, especially if it's a little bit on the heavier side. So resistance training, dumbbells, barbells, kettlebells, even body weight training. If you have your own body and you don't have anything else, your body is a wonderful tool to use. You can still enhance your physicality and your health with your organism that God gave you.
George,
but yes,
we got a question. Is physical exercise the only way to encourage the generation of myokines?
No.
Okay.
Physical exercise is not the only way. All movement can help produce the secretion of myokines. However, if it's a more intense contraction, it does seem to generate more and be better. But let's say I'm in the garden working. Let's say I'm a physical laborer of some kind, of a construction worker, and I'm carrying things around and putting things together. I'm a mechanic. All movement is good. All movement is good, and the human organism is designed to move. So no, exercise seems to be the greater or have the greatest production of myokines, but all movement can be beneficial in secreting myokines. So, Jeff, I'll tell you what. Could we please go to the first slide? And what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk through this slide just a little bit and highlight a few things. If possible, let's hold off on the questions. I will not be long with this, I promise.
Okay.
But this picture here, hold the question just for a couple minutes. This picture here is beautiful because it gives us a nice demonstration of the myokines. So as you can see here, and everyone can see the IL-6. The IL-6 there represents interleukin 6. That's the myokine, Jeff, that I referenced in the Drew study that I was referring to with the question that you asked there a little bit ago.
Mm-hmm.
So this gives us just an example of the interleukin 6, but there's always more to it. So the interleukin 6, it's released from contracting muscles with exercise, as you can see there. It's number 1 on the left of the screen. Then we have number 2. Take a look at number 2, and then take a look at number 3 there. So number 2 travels from muscle through your blood vessels to other organs in your body. On the right of your screen, you see other organs of the body. Now, number 3 there, IL-6 acts as a signaling protein to other cells, causing specific actions to occur in your body. We've talked about that, but this picture here illustrates that beautifully, and I think it helps from an educational purpose. But if you see, everybody, in the center of the screen, you see the muscle on the left there, the muscle you see there, and then in the center of the screen there, you have the artery, which is the bloodstream, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, on the right is all the organs, the brain, the liver, pancreas, intestines, the muscle itself. So the muscles itself also, they will have some receptor sites too, muscle cells for the myokines as well. Let me go through each of these just briefly here. We see at the bottom of the screen there the fat. We see the fat cells there. So what's happening there? And also we have IL-6, right? Notice there's also IL-15. The IL-15 associates more with resistance training. The IL-15 or interleukin 15 is also a myokine. So I just wanted to mention that. So we have fat there at the bottom. So we have a process of lipolysis. And basically what that is a fancy way of saying a metabolic process that breaks down fat and helps the fat not just sit on us, but rather be stored for energy. Mm-hmm. Now we move over a little bit there. We have the muscle strands there, and we have the muscle hypertrophy, the glucose uptake, and fat oxidation. So we have an enhancement of building muscle, also using glucose or glycogen stores in the muscle for energy. That's good. We don't want sugar to sit in our bloodstream. That's for darn sure. We have fat oxidation, which is the same thing as lipolysis. There's breaking down of the fat being used for energy. That's what we want. Fat is an awesome fuel source. We need it, but we want to use it for energy, not have it rest on us. Now we go up a little further, everybody. We have intestines. Intestines there, notice the GLP-1. What is that? That's glucagon-like peptide. That's a protein, and the body produces to help regulate blood sugar, controlling appetite, and helps with the digestion process, okay? So that's what's going on there, and myokines initiate this. They help cause this to take place. We go up from intestines, we have the pancreas. So there you see insulin being released. So there we're talking about keeping glucose in your blood within a normal range. It does this by taking glucose out of the bloodstream and moving it to cells throughout the body. The cells use the glucose for energy and store the excess in your liver, muscles, and fat. And the liver can hold on to this and use it when we need it, when we're depleted. The liver does a lot of things for the body, and that's one of the items that it does as well as emulsify and break down fat and rid the body of toxins. We go up a little further, everybody. We have the liver. See the liver there, and there we have glucose production during exercise. So the glucose production during exercise, and this is a process called gluconeogenesis. And this is basically a process by which the liver synthesizes or creates glucose from amino acids and other carbohydrates to build up glycogen reserves in the body, increasing production of glucose for exercise. So this is kind of what I was getting to earlier. When the body is just depleted and it needs help with energy, the liver can help us out in that regard. Now, the brain is at the top. We've discussed the brain already. So we have there the BDNF there, you see there. What that is that's our brain-derived neurotrophic factor is what what that stands for, but that is basically aiding in that helps us with increasing that, can help us with mood disorders. So, or help us stay calmer under fire, more even keel, more less temperamental, and more able to keep an even keel temperament when we're stuck in traffic or we don't get so stressed out about life and so forth. But we also talked a little bit earlier just about the new neurons in the brain. Additionally, the learning enhancement too that can happen at any age. I want to stress that at any age, learning and memory can be enhanced, but it does take effort. And as we get older, it doesn't get easier. But just know that our abilities just don't stop because we're 60 or 70 or 80. We still have the ability to enhance every facet of our being through movement and through the help of the myokines to all these various organs of the body. So let me pause there and then just ask any questions at this point with this diagram, anything to share, just a comment as well that anyone would like to share at this point too.
The IL-6 is the only myokine doing this, or there's other ones?
There's other ones too, Mike. Yes.
Okay. Why did you focus on IL-6?
IL-6, Mike, seems to be the most prominent we've studied so far. But let me share this with you too. Notice there, Mike, too, the IL-15. Do you see that there as well? And let me just reiterate this. The IL-15 is interleukin-15, and that relates more to, or so it appears, to resistance type training. So we have, and resistance type training is probably the most beneficial training to eliminate body fat, because when we're building lean tissue through resistance type work or resistance training, that we automatically, because we enhance metabolic ability so much, we eliminate body fat. And notice here the IL-15 pointing down to the fat, but the IL-6 there too is right above it.
That's interesting. You mentioned resistance training. I just wrote a blog. It'll be coming up on the website in the next day or so about pain, that pain can be good for you. Suffering can be good for you. And there's scriptures that definitely talk about that. But resistance leads to stress. Okay. But again, depending on how much stress, we don't want to overwhelm ourselves with stress all the time, every moment. But a certain amount of stress will prepare us for later stress. Romans chapter 5, verses 1 through 5 talks about the fact that, when you go through something, you persevere, you overcome, you gain hope, and, you become stronger as a Christian. So it's interesting. Yeah. Stress or resistance seems to be a natural thing that God is allowing in our lives in order to build us up spiritually, but it also works from a physical standpoint.
Yeah, Mike, great point there. Absolutely. Yes. We don't want to overwhelm ourselves. We can overdo anything. Yes, anything can be overdone. And also, Mike, you made me think about, biblically speaking, that he doesn't allow us to be tempted or tried beyond our capabilities as well. But he allows us to go through trials. He does. And we can become greater or perfected through those trials. Absolutely, yes. Spiritually and physically speaking too. And sometimes it seems like when we tap into this myokine subject, the physical and the spiritual are intertwining in some way. In some fascinating way too.
We got another question. Are there supplements that can generate the myokines? I think somebody doesn't want to do exercise.
Well, I tell you what's interesting about that question is, I believe the answer is possibly yes. There is a doctor named Frank Schallenberger. And Frank Schallenberger, within the last couple of years, had an article, and I think he called his article "The Lazy Man's Approach to Gaining Muscle." And what he talked about was, if we can supplement with amino acids, in the amino acid supplement on an empty stomach, get straight into our bloodstream, it can enhance the muscle itself. But here's what it might not be able to do. So going back to that question, the answer is yes, we can enhance the muscle, but we still need to have muscle contraction to have muscle enhance, or the myokines enhance the rest of the body, because it's not going to be, some things will not be done by themselves. So there still should be some muscular contraction, but I do think that the question is interesting because amino acids, essential amino acids directly into the bloodstream, can enhance skeletal muscle tissue. There's good research to back that up, and it should be on an empty stomach. If it's not an empty stomach, we're not going to get all the benefits from it. But close to 95% of it, maybe even more, on an empty stomach with maybe some water or maybe a little bit of juice, can promote good skeletal muscle development, or maintaining our skeletal muscle at least. And that's still important for movement. That's still important for movement. Whatever movement the person who asked the question, whatever movement you can do or are doing, that will still be enhanced and aided by a good quality supplement of amino acids. So yes, a good, and I would say essential amino acids, not just any amino acid supplement, but essential, EAA, that is, essential amino acid supplement. That's the amino acids the body cannot produce by itself. So I would add that to answer that question.
Yeah, I have a question based upon a comment, and the comment is kind of a funny comment. Well, Bill Lucenite says, my fat cells communicate with me telepathically. They say, feed me. So my question is thinking, if the muscles produce like messages to our body, do fat cells message our body?
Yes. So yes, but here's the thing too. Check this out, everyone.
Yeah.
The myokines can also do this. They can, if we have a tendency to feel hungry or the urge to eat, the myokines, there's some research in the subject indicating that they can help us realize that we're full. We have satiety or fullness or satisfaction from our meal, rather than, wow, I got to eat more. I got to eat something else. So the myokines can work against fat in the sense that they help. Now everybody look at the picture again too. I didn't go into this, but look at the top of the diagram of the picture. Notice appetite. Does everybody see appetite there at the top by the brain?
Yes.
Notice the arrow pointing down. So myokines too can do that to the brain. They can suppress our thinking that, or our belief or our urge to, I need to eat more, I need to eat this, I need to eat that. They can help us realize that we're full, we've had enough. Now, sometimes also this gets a little trickier and a little more, there's more depth to this, of course, but the food selection that we have often relates to this too. But exercise helps with this, and also good quality protein foods goes along with this too. But this is a question, it's an interesting question and a good one, but it's a question with more depth for our discussion today probably. But just know that the myokines can also help the brain realize that, hey, I don't need this extra food. I ate this much. I feel good. Remember, everything in our body, even our emotions, the way we think, there's all of these are chemical reactions. All of this intertwines. All of this is together. There's nothing by itself. The brain is a master organ, but it cannot stand alone. The heart is the first organ formed in the fetus, but the heart is nothing without circulation. The brain is nothing without the nerves in the nervous system. They can't stand alone. They must have everything else and all these messages contributing to this entire system, which is truly fearfully and wonderfully made. It's just awesome to consider it. And I know you guys, with you guys especially, Mike and Jeff, I know it resonates extremely well with you. I hope it does to the folks on standby there too, listening today. I hope it's beneficial for all of us.
Yeah, you're really hitting that analogy of the church as an organism, that everybody matters. The weak people matter because you help the weak people, and so and all the communication, in order for a church to really function correctly, there's got to be communication on a constant basis back and forth, just like the body is communicating on a constant basis back and forth. And when you put blockades to that, it causes the body not to work the way it should work.
Exactly right, Mike. That's exactly right. And you know what? There was a book written. Do you guys know who Bill Pearl is? You might know the name. He was an old time bodybuilder. He was, I think, when Arnold Schwarzenegger was a young man, he idolized Bill Pearl. Bill Pearl wrote a book. Carol has a copy. My wife. He wrote a book, The Inner Universe. You know exactly what it's about by the title, The Inner Universe. We have this inner universe. There is the outer universe. The outer universe, there is also the inner universe as well. And it boggles the mind, the intricacies of it. And yes, Mike, for sure, the communication communication is important for everything. It's important for this human organism too. You know, the church, the human body, all things, all companies, teams, whatever it might be. Additional, Jeff, can we please go to slide number 2? I just wanted to share something there too.
So we got about 8 minutes, George, just so you know.
Okay. Mike, thank you. Yes, Jeff, this will be the last slide we're going to go over. I just want to share a little bit about this slide here. So where does the fat go? Myokines will contribute to the distribution of fat, and they will also detract. They will minimize fat cells in the body. That is very good. Notice, everyone, on the left of the screen, we have there the visceral fat. The visceral fat is very dangerous. The visceral fat, notice the blue, stored around the organs, around the heart, around the stomach, the liver. This leads to, or can lead to, cancer, heart disease. It can lead to a host of health abnormalities that we may not be able to overcome. So that's the visceral fat. The myokines help distribute or break it down. They take it to other parts of the body. Now notice the right of the screen. This is better. This is subcutaneous, stored under the skin. Is this a bad thing? Not necessarily. All of us have some fat. That's not a bad thing. Fat has its place. Fat is still a fuel source for the body. We need some, but we don't want to have a lot of it. A lot of it is toxic to the body, and it stores toxins. And it can lead to a host of and a variety of forms of cancer and disease, a variety. So we want it, if we're gaining a lot of weight around our abdomen, around our hips, be aware, be cautious. Change something about your diet. Do something with exercise that's within reason for you. Just know that we can't eat the same way. When we're 15, 15, 20 years later, we can't eat this. We get into our 30s and beyond, or 40s. 30s is still pretty young. Let's say we get into our 40s or so, we can't eat the way we did when we were 25. It just can't be, it's not the same way. We must be cognizant of that.
George,
metabolism changes.
Quick question on that last point. I can remember when I got to my 40s, there were times where I didn't feel like I needed to eat as much. And so I didn't. I noticed this in my 40s. Does that have something to do with myokines, or does that have to do with, hey, you were exercising regularly and your body's not metabolizing as quickly? Was it just an internal thing? What do you think caused that thinking to change?
Mike, I think both of your points probably are true and probably contributed to it, because the myokines will affect our brain. They can affect our thinking, but also I think, Mike, you've been a long time exerciser from your youth. You played baseball growing up very consistently for many years. So I think that your body knew about movement, and your body probably had an intelligence built into it that was enhanced through the lifestyle that you had, lifting weights or going for a run or jumping rope. So I would say, yes, the myokines can be a part of that. They do affect our brain, and they can affect our thinking. But also, because you already established something from a younger age, younger period in your life, that does play a role as we get older. You establish something early on, so your body realizes, your body probably had more innate wisdom built into it, because you established that and you kept it up. You can maintain consistency in that. So yes, I would say probably both points.
Okay, thanks for that. Now, quick other question. Bill says, is it true fat is actually expelled from our body via our breath? I've never heard that.
You know what? I have to say I never heard of that either. But here's what I will say, though, about that. we do, when we're breathing heavier, we are using energy. So there is a form of training, high intensity interval training, which will cause anyone to breathe heavier. Depending, and anyone will base this on their own ability and level of exercise ability to enhance metabolic rate. So the heavier breathing, here's what's interesting about Bill's question. And Bill, if you're, Bill, what's interesting here, Bill, was that metabolic rate is enhanced with heavier breathing. Mm-hmm. So that could be greater caloric expenditure. I will say this, with greater caloric expenditure, there is also more fat that is utilized for energy as well, and more fat that can be burned with greater caloric expenditure. So the heavier breathing does promote that ultimately. So very interesting question. I don't know if I would say like through the breath itself so much, but the heavier breathing requires energy from the body. It requires caloric expenditure from the exercise itself. So I would rephrase it maybe a little differently, but it's an interesting way to phrase the question though. So I may, any more thoughts right now? I may try to wrap it up here in just a moment with a little story, but any questions or comments from anyone else first? But great questions and great feedback there by everyone. Really appreciate it.
I think I don't have any more questions, and I know we're getting close to 1 o'clock. So if you want to go and wrap it up.
Go ahead, George. Wrap it up.
Okay. Here's what I'll say. And then we have a couple minutes. Once upon a time, there was a exercise physiologist, exercise scientist. His name was Angel Spasov. He was from one of the Eastern European countries. And he was an innovator. He was someone that tried to push the limits of the human body and questioned how great can this human organism be and become. That was one of his primary goals in life. He was critiqued for this. He was criticized for this. And there might have been good points he had. It might have been some points that weren't always good on his side. But nevertheless, he was someone that wanted to push the envelope and ask the questions, ask the powerful, pertinent questions. How powerful, how strong, how far can this human organism go and become? He was asked once by one of his critics, Angel, this training system that you have, that you're implementing, this is something new, something different. No one does this. This is not ordinary. Angel Spasov responded to his critic in one of my all-time favorite quotes any human being has ever uttered. Angel Spasov's response: "Who wants to be ordinary? We choose to be extraordinary." Mm-hmm. Myokines are leading us in that direction, to live extraordinary lives. And as we think about where we are as Christians, as people, what are we shooting for? What are we striving for? As people in the Church of God, are people striving in that direction? Mm-hmm. We truly are aiming for not the ordinary, but the extraordinary. Mm-hmm. Thanks, Mike and Jeff, and thanks to everybody. And if anyone has questions, additionally, Mike, feel free to pass my email on, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. Thank you, everybody. I'm going to start to wrap things up.
Yeah, that's a good story to end on. Jeff, do you have his email address?
I'm trying to look, see if I can find his email address.
Okay.
I do not see it where I can pull it up yet.
Are myokines affected by medication, George?
Is it Georgie22?
They can be, Mike, yes. And that's a deeper question. They can be affected adversely. All right. So that's, yes, George, Jeff, that is correct.
What's your latest email?
Is it Georgie V22?
Yes, Georgiev22 forever.
There we go. I got it.
That is it right there. That is it right there. That's the best email. I have another one too. Anyone can email me for more. I'm going to sign off, everybody, but I thank you all. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, George.
All right. We'll say goodbye to George, and I guess we'll say goodbye to everyone else. We'll see everybody next week on another edition. Approve all things. I got to find the new way of closing. Here we go. All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Okay. See you, Jeff.
All right.